Geekily Married Geek Night.
Hi, we're Geekily Married. So what do you want to do today?
Let's talk about some of our favorite horror movies.
I love horror movies.
Me too.
It's one of my favorite genres. I think we should do 5 each of horror movies that have stuck with us since we've seen them.
Yes.
That works.
All right.
You want to start us off?
Sure.
All right.
My number 5 pick is Mama.
That's a good one.
Mama's a supernatural horror. Pretty much, there are some girls, two children, in a cabin in the woods, and Mama finds them, and she raises them as her own. And then a couple years later, these girls are found by a search party that their uncle had hired, because he's one of their last remaining relatives. I think they do have a couple other, but he's the main one. I think he's their dad's brother. So when they're found, they try to bring them back into society to live a normal life, and Mama is a ghost, some kind of entity. I'm not really for sure. She's definitely supernatural, but she is not happy when they take these girls from her. So she follows them. The girls always know when she's there. They can see her when other people can't. So she pretty much just spends the rest of the movie terrorizing this family, trying to get these girls back. And you actually find yourself kind of sympathizing with Mama, because I feel she does legitimately love those girls. So you find yourself kind of torn, because you're like, I sympathize with her, but when she was alive, she was in a mental institution, and she killed herself and her baby, so she was kind of crazy. So I won't spoil the ending for you. It's kind of a downhill movie. There's not a lot of happy moments at all.
It's a depressing movie.
But it's definitely worth a watch.
It's a very good movie, though.
So give it a try if you haven't.
Definitely. My number 5 would be The Boy. I've heard a lot of people don't like this movie, but I thought it was great.
I did too.
Basically, Lauren Cohen from The Walking Dead is hired as a nanny to care for a doll. The mother legitimately believes this doll is alive, and her son, she dresses it, bathes it, feeds it, and she hires the nanny to cook and clean and take care of a doll. And
yeah,
it's really weird, and it starts off rather slow, but it just builds and builds and builds until that ending hits, and it blew me away. I did not see that one coming.
I didn't either.
I did not see it coming. I won't ruin it, but definitely watch it.
Yeah.
And don't let, I know people are terrified of dolls, and this doll's not necessarily creepy, but it's definitely worth a watch. I would not turn away this one.
Very good. All right, my number 4 is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. It was the first Halloween I ever watched, because, back in the day when they still had video stores where you could rent VHS tapes, that was the only one they had. They didn't have the first or second, so I didn't get to see those first. So this one has just a lot of sentimental value to me, because me and my best friend and some other girls were in a friend's basement, and we watched it in the dark, and it was the first one, the introduction to kind of Michael Myers and the slasher genre. So it holds a little place in my heart there. But pretty much Michael was assumed dead in 2, and then come to find out in 4 he's not. And he is still has the agenda of murdering his entire family, and one of his lone surviving relatives is his niece, Jamie. She is, I would say, somewhere between the age of 8 and 10, maybe. Yeah. And the movie, he is spent with him trying to capture her, to murder her. The actress who plays her does a really great job for such a young age. Classic, Halloween soundtrack. It's a very 80s movie, but really good, super good, and it's got a lot of action, so I would suggest watching it.
That's a good one. My number 4 would be Friday the 13th, the original movie that started the franchise. Watched a lot of them when I was a kid. You know, my parents used to make us hide under a table while they watched horror movies, so I'd peek under there and watch them. You know, those scared me, but this one I sought out on my own. And if you haven't seen Friday the 13th, shame on you. But if you haven't,
Shame.
basically a bunch of campers go to camp. The camp counselors end up being picked off one by one. It's all one person. You don't see who's killing them. And it's very
Really,
innovative.
yeah.
I thought it was, even then, I was pretty shocked
Yeah.
by the fact that you're seeing that first person.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
It's really, really good.
Low budget movie that started a massive franchise that's
it's
done.
I would say
10,
it's
12
iconic
movies,
now.
You know?
Yeah. Friday the 13th is iconic by now, you know, and really awesome.
It is, and you know, if you haven't seen the ending, like I said, shame on you. But I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But if you've seen Scream, you know the ending.
You too. All right. My number 3 is The Dentist. It sounds really cheesy, but it's actually, the concept is quite terrifying, because some people have a fear of dentists anyway, and it just really could strike a nerve, I would see.
Oh, yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So pretty much he, the dentist, he's Dr. Alan Feinstein, I believe. He has a successful practice in like Beverly Hills. You know, he's quite rich, very successful, and the only problem is he's insane.
Big problem.
He cannot stand for things to be imperfect, whether it be somebody, you know, having an imperfection or doing something imperfectly. Sometimes he imagines things that aren't there. Like he took braces off a girl and imagined her teeth were rotting. So he's definitely got something psychological going on there.
Yep.
I'm not for sure what. But that little quirk leads him to murder. So that is his big downfall.
It's a big one.
But very suspenseful movie. I'd not seen that concept done before, really. This is like an early 90s movie. It's really got that vibe to it, but I like that. And it's really entertaining, so I suggest giving it a watch if you haven't.
It's a very good movie.
Yeah.
My number 3 would be Sleepaway Camp. This is a movie that we'd heard about but never seen until we bought the trilogy box set with the unseen 4th one, I think, is on there.
Yes.
Right? So basically it's another camp slasher movie where everyone, not just the counselors, but the other kids, and everyone is dying in this movie. From the cook being the boiling pot dumped on his face. And it's super 80s cliche
campy,
movies.
yeah.
If you thought Friday the 13th was
Super,
campy,
This takes the
thing
cake
takes
by
the
far.
cake. And the ripped dude, just belly shirt. Who
With like
does
Daisy
that?
Dukes.
No one does that anymore. But I must have a thing for twist endings, because you'll never see that ending coming.
Very
Not
good.
in a million years.
Yeah,
It's weird and creepy and great.
You have to watch it to
You-
believe it and
you
understand
definitely do.
like what's going on.
You'll never see it coming.
No, it's really good. Right, my number 2 is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I have not ever read the book. I want to one day. But I watched Pet Sematary when I was like 10 or 11, and it terrified me. That little boy gave me nightmares.
He's creepy.
And I can't think of the actor his name that plays Herman Munster, but he's in this movie, and it really, I love his voice. I like his acting, and so he made it better, I think, for me. It made me more enjoyable for me. But pretty much, family moves to the house. Up the hill in the woods, there is a pet cemetery. You go past that pet cemetery, and there is an ancient Indian burial ground. And long story short, they bury things there that you shouldn't bury. And they come back but they're not the same. And usually they're murderous when they do return from the dead like that. So I definitely suggest watching it. I feel like it's kind of iconic.
It is. It's just...
Most people know about Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
Very good watch, though, at least once. It's got some pretty gruesome scenes here and there.
At least 3 that are horrible
that I could
scenes.
think of, too. Yeah, that are just like, oh. But definitely a creepy movie. The concept, which you should never play around with ancient Indian burial grounds anyway, apparently.
Or bringing people back to life. You should
Yes.
know that, right?
Yes, you should not mess around with that at all. Stick to the Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
But
or your goldfish in your backyard.
yes. But definitely give it a watch if you've not seen it. It's pretty creepy. And it's got some really good scenes in it that are pretty iconic.
Very iconic. My number 2 would be Sometimes They Come Back. And it's just a coincidence that it's another Stephen King short story turned into film. It is made for TV, so it's not gruesome, it's not gory or anything like that. It's just, when I was a kid and seen this movie, it horrified me. It's a very hard concept to explain thoroughly, but basically 2 brothers are going to the library and they get harassed by these greasers because it's set in the 50s. They're rustling up for their money, and the older brother ends up getting stabbed by a switchblade, and the younger brother runs away when the train comes along and kills everybody there. And so the brother moves back to town, and all the horror starts because they want to keep out of hell, so they start killing other students to come back. And if they complete their killings of killing everyone there, then they stay out of hell. I don't know how that works, but I think it's super great. I don't think it holds up too well, but it just takes me back to when I was a child and my dad loved that
The
movie.
story is good. It's the visual effects aren't as good as you remember as a child.
A lot of Stephen King movies were made for TV, so there's not a whole lot of gore, and it's more of a psychological thing, like, you know, how would you feel if your brother was killed in front of your eyes? And
right.
kind of
It's
thing.
really good
Haunts
though.
you.
I'd definitely watch
I'd
it.
watch it. You know, maybe you won't like it because of its...
Yeah, it doesn't age the best,
No.
but it's still good.
I love the movie,
One of our favorites.
definitely.
All right, my number 1 is Friday the 13th Part 3. I watched that movie. It kind of just established my love for that cheesy 80s slasher film. It's set at my favorite Friday the 13th place, Higgins Haven. I love the poster from it. It's your typical Friday the 13th movie. It is the one where Jason gets his iconic mask, though. He gets his famous mask there, thanks to Shelley. And this movie was actually made for 3D. And, of course, we did not get to watch it in 3D because I'm pretty sure it came out before we were born. I think it came out in the mid early 80s, and we were late 80s babies. But you don't, if you like, by today's standards, and you don't watch it, I mean, I understand why they did some of the effects the way they did, but they're super cheesy now. Like, there was a snake popping out of the chicken coop, and you can totally see it on the wire. And as far as I know, there's no way to watch it in 3D now.
Not real 3D.
Not real 3D, like in the theater back when it was released. There's no... I mean, I think people have tried to watch it with 3D glasses, and it's not the same as it should be. It'd be cool if they started selling the 3D glasses. Like, we have a box set. It would have been cool if they would have included special glasses to be able to watch it as it was intended to be watched. That way, the cheesy special effects made sense, more sense. Yeah, like some of the kill scenes are pretty cheesy. But it's just your typical, they're picked off one by one.
Jason's unstoppable.
He is. He does actually run in this movie, though. So, most movies you don't see him run. He just kind of strolls, and he's actually running in this movie.
Chasing that chicken.
He seems more human in this movie, which it was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
But one of my all-time favorites, definitely my favorite Friday the 13th ever, So I highly suggest giving it a try if you haven't.
Definitely. My number one would be It Follows. This movie blew me away from start to finish. The cinematography, the camera angles, the music, the acting is all amazing work. Basically, there's an entity that follows you if you have sex. So if you have sex with the next person, it leaves you alone and it follows that next person. It follows. So, but if it kills you, it comes right back to the person before you. So this guy has sex with this girl just to get rid of it. And so basically she's running from it the entire movie. It's like a giant nightmare. Just horrible, just dreamlike sequences, and you never know what it's set in because there's new technology, old technology. The living room looks like it's from the 80s or 70s, and it's just a complete mind-bending movie. It's very good.
Yeah, and there's no escaping it.
There isn't. And you don't know what it is. It could be, an STD or your guilty conscience or
it never
whatever.
clarifies.
It never clarifies what it is, but it follows you and it kills you. It'll take the form of anything, any person, whether it's someone you know or someone you don't know. So you're constantly watching your back.
Yes.
So don't have random sex with people. That's what I learned.
It's definitely, some people hated it.
Oh yeah, there's no in between. You either hate it or love it.
I heard some people I read really did not care for it. I thought it was really creepy.
Yeah. I've seen it a lot. It's great.
Yeah, it really creeped me out. The whole way it was put together. So I agree.
It's a very good movie. One of my favorites of all time.
Yes.
Well, thank you for watching this video. We hope we introduced you into horror movies you haven't seen. That would be great, so you can see them too. Like this video, share it, subscribe down below. We'd like that a lot.
We would.
If you enjoyed this video, and share it with your friends. We're Geekily Married, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.